Hello and welcome to Beyond the News. This is the show where you get all that's never heard before, something that may raise your eyebrow and can even leave you smiling. I am your host Preeti Hoon, so shall we begin? Okay, so the first story is from Ukraine. If you will look at this young girl, you will be charmed by her innocence and prettiness like you would be by any other teenager growing up in Ukraine. But what differs is not visible to the human eye. Liza Yaroshenko is affected by HIV/AIDS. Liza Yaroshenko is like any other Ukrainian high schooler. She's pretty, she's innocent, practices dance and jokes with schoolmates, and also performs chores around her Kyiv apartment. You may think of her like any other teenager growing up in Ukraine. But what is not so common and also unfortunate is that she's suffering from HIV/AIDS. Yaroshenko contracted through her mother, who was an intravenous drug user. The teen lost her mother to AIDS 8 years ago, about the time she realized she could also not escape the dangerous disease.
My mother died of AIDS when I was 6 years old. I was getting ill too often. Then my grandmother took me to the hospital, and this is how I found out. I even guessed myself that my mother was HIV positive.
And since the girl knew what it feels to be affected by such a deadly disease, Yaroshenko decided to start disseminating information about the spread of HIV virus.
We started creating various projects, various flash mobs, so I got really involved into it. It's so great. I like helping. I receive messages often on social networks, even from adults. They can be 30 or 40 years of age. It doesn't matter. They write to me, ask for some kind of advice, and I like helping them, giving advice and supporting them.
She has lobbied deputies in the Radom, Ukraine's parliament to reconsider the 2013 budget that reduced funding for HIV, tuberculosis and hepatitis treatment.
I'm desperately asking the deputies to pay attention to this and not to let the kind of thing that happened with me happen to anyone else.
Her appeal fell on deaf ears. However, as deputies approved the budget that slashed HIV and tuberculosis funding and cut hepatitis funding altogether. And also, while Yaroshenko was on her mission, she realized it was also not easy to educate people about HIV as myths were abound.
In schools where I used to study, the teacher would even tell us during the lessons that HIV virus can spread through sneezing, that we must not communicate with such children, people. I had a lot of arguments with teacher because of that, so many arguments that they would even evict me from classroom. They would take me to the headmasters because I had really serious fights with them.
Moreover, the local NGOs are also not in favor of the government having a low budget for a disease that needs much attention in the country.
We know exactly that in Ukraine, there are the means to stop 3 epidemics: the AIDS epidemic, the hepatitis epidemic, and the tuberculosis epidemic. We held Euro 2012 and spent billions in preparing for it to be here. All Europeans saw how this happened. I'll give you a little example. For the cost of one stadium that was built for Euro 2012, it would be possible to treat all the HIV-infected people in Ukraine for 36 years.
Yaroshenko now lives with adoptive mother and father who support her advocacy and try to keep her treatment on track under difficult circumstances and great exposure.
I understand. For example, we have enough medicines for maximum 1 month. But with our instability, I don't know what can happen in a month. It's not clear how to move forward. And even if at some point we'll end up having enough money to buy this medicine, it's not clear how to find these pills as they're not sold anywhere. And as the light of latest law, they won't be sold.
According to UNAIDS, AIDS mortality in Ukraine is at its highest with 8.2 people out of 100,000 dying of the disease. And amid such upsetting numbers, Yaroshenko is really a brave heart to make an effort to bind people together and spread the word about HIV. Bureau Report, Zee Media. Well, it's not really an easy thing to do what Yaroshenko is doing. Okay, moving on to the next story. Britain's legendary wartime Prime Minister Winston Churchill drove it. It is the last piece and it is on sale at eBay. I'm sure you want to check out this baby. Britain's legendary wartime Prime Minister Winston Churchill drove it. It is the last piece and it is on sale at eBay. A vintage car dealer in the western German town of Inger offers the car for sale on behalf of a widow of a billionaire who wants to remain anonymous. The Daimler is the last known model of its class.
The special thing about this car is that it is unique in the world. There were 8 cars built, 4 were destroyed during the Blitzkrieg, 2 are missing, and 1 is destroyed beyond repair. So this is last known model in existence, and it was used by Mr. Winston Churchill from 1944 until 1949.
Kaker said that he thought it made more sense to auction a car through eBay rather than sell through national papers or the internet because of the great international interest. He also cited the Pope mobile sold through eBay in 2005 as an example of a successful deal. The dealer was certain the bid would rise from its original price and that it was to fetch a neat figure. The restoration of the vehicle alone has been reportedly cost more than 250,000 euros.
I thought that it makes much more sense to sell on eBay than just in magazines and the internet, because it is connected with such a personality like Winston Churchill. An example was the Pope mobile in 2005 that was immensely popular and reached a great amount at the end.
The dealer also said that a lot of people have visited to see the car and have offered to pay more than what the eBay bidding stood at the time of inquiry. He also mentioned of the fact that he was determined to pursue the auction sale no matter what the car would fetch at the end of the day. Bureau Report, Zee Media. Okay, it's time for a break. We'll take a short break. We'll be right back. You're watching Beyond the News. Welcome back. Let's take you to the Bronx High School of Science in the Bronx borough of New York City now. It has a new addition in its classroom and it's a Holocaust museum and study center that offers a first-hand lesson on the horrors of the Holocaust. Wow, isn't that exciting? Let's fish into the story then. Bronx High School of Science in New York now has a classroom unlike any other. It now features a Holocaust museum and study center that is filled with about 900 items and gives a first-hand lesson on the horrors of the Holocaust. The museum is housed inside the school and offers students a rare and emotional insight into the Holocaust. The school has unveiled the museum's new home, which is a 1,000 square foot space in the basement of the school. The walls of the 3 windowless gallery spaces are painted dark grey and offer visitors solemn introspection as they take in Nazi propaganda posters, swastika flags and clothing worn by both German guards and concentration camp prisoners.
We have approximately 900 items. It's a bit of a hodgepodge collection. We have items ranging from Nazi daggers and propaganda posters to newspapers to concentration camp uniforms to German uniforms to German mugs. There's a lot of material here, and some of it is very valuable.
While a 17-year-old senior, Shoshana Shapiro, helped research and organize the items in the collection.
I think one of our more prominent artifacts.
You know what, this puts it to life. Even in this class, just talking about it and really getting the viewpoints and just seeing all these artifacts reminds me that it really happened. Just before this museum was finally, finished, we were in here when they had the clothing were literally like 2 feet away from me with no glass in between. And I was just, it was such a powerful feeling. Even though I wasn't touching it, I was just looking at it and there's no glass, to know that something that had so much destruction affiliated was so close. It brings it to life. And though I know people who survived, everything here makes it more real about the people who aren't here.
Another student, Michaela Ritz, said the class and museum offers lessons that you can learn from a history book.
In entering the museum, it's like you're stepping into a time zone almost. You see what you would have been surrounded with had you been living in Germany or Poland in the 1930s during the Holocaust, during the war. Slowly transformed the school system to...
The Bronx High School of Science also wants to open the museum to the public, with the students leading tours to school and other visiting groups. Bureau Report, Zee Media. Okay, we've talked about a lot of auctions taking place lately. Joining the list is another one that featured rock and roll memorabilia. It included hundreds of stage and personal items owned by the biggest names in the entertainment industry. More in the story. It was time for another auction, and this time around it featured a collection of rock and roll memorabilia that went on sale online. It included hundreds of stage and personal items owned by the biggest names in the entertainment industry. Some of the top lots were on display at the New York showroom of Gotta Have It Collectibles. Among the pieces at display was a set of 4 collarless jackets worn by the Beatles in their 1964 film, A Hard Day's Night. Each jacket has a label with the name of the band member written on it inside.
These are the suits that were worn in the movie Hard Day's Night. They came directly from D.A. Millings and Company. The father had made the actual suits and the patterns for the Beatles. They were worn by the Beatles in the actual movie. They were sent back to D.A. Millings and Son to go ahead and have patterns if they needed any more suits made. And they were purchased many years ago by a collector. They've been on display. Beatles Story in the UK for many years. They were on the BBC. They're very, very well known. We have a great picture of them wearing the suits.
Another top slot is the handwritten lyrics of US Blues by Jerry Garcia when he was a member of American rock band The Grateful Dead. Biddings for this lot started at $70,000 US.
Almost like McCartney put him in his pocket, and then we wound up getting them. This is Jerry Garcia's actual handwriting of the song, of the lyrics on paper, pen to paper as we call it. As you can see, it's a little sloppy. There's a lot of water stains, and it looks like a little coffee and a tear in the corner. It was probably stapled to something else. This is how original lyrics should look.
The auction also offered numerous items owned by Elvis Presley, including a TV that came from his private Graceland estate in Memphis, Tennessee.
This TV was in his personal bedroom at Graceland, and he was watching Johnny Carson one night, and Charlie Hodge, who was a dear friend of his, was well known, was with him, and Robert Goulet came on, who Elvis didn't have much of a feeling for. And Elvis was a big gun collector, and he had a gun by his side, and he actually took the .22 gun and he shot the TV, and he said, "F you, Robert Goulet, if you can't take a joke," and signed the TV and gave it to Charlie Hodge, and said, "Charlie, here, now it's worth more, keep it."
Other lots on display were a snakeskin jacket worn by the lead singer of The Doors, Jim Morrison, and shirt worn by none other than Michael Jackson. The 10-day auction ended on May 3rd. Bureau Report, Zee Media. I know you're loving all the stories we are showing you, but we got to take a break. So take a break and come right back. welcome back. Okay, this one's my fave. All you foodies, this story is going to tell you where exactly in the world you should be to get your taste buds be satisfied with the best food. The world's 50 best restaurants have been announced, and guess who won the top honor at the elite event? Well, wait till you see this report.
The Aquapana Best Restaurant in Europe, and also the San Pellegrino.
It was time for the annual announcement of world's 50 best restaurants, and taking away the top glory was the Roca Brothers family restaurant El Celler de Can Roca in Girona, Spain.
Joan, Josep and Jordi, the Roca Brothers.
The restaurant scooped the honor at a glittering ceremony attended by who's who from the world of hospitality.
Estoy muy feliz, yo y mis hermanos, porque hoy ha sido una noche mágica, una noche muy especial, porque hemos recogido un reconocimiento profesional importantísimo, pero también, y quizá hasta más importante, porque hemos recogido un reconocimiento en forma de afecto, en forma de cariño, en forma de complicidad, de amistad, de todos los colegas, de toda la gente del sector, de todos los grandes cocineros del mundo, de la prensa especializada del mundo, y eso para nosotros es muy importante. Estamos muy felices.
The event was hosted by Restaurant Magazine at the historic Guildhall in London. The editor of the publication, William Drew, mentioned the qualities that determine the best of the best restaurant.
So there are lots of different aspects. Obviously, the kind of the cooking technique, the ideas, the service style, the place, the atmosphere they create, the experience, the theatre of eating in many of these places. So there are lots of different elements, and every restaurant does it slightly differently, of course, and that's part of the joy of this industry. And certainly, the diversity within the world's 50 best restaurants is we believe, one of its strongest points.
And despite the fact that many of these top restaurants come with a hefty bill to their clientele, top British chef Heston Blumenthal says the idea that they are profitable is a myth.
At this level, you're not. The chefs aren't safe from, from kind of walking a financial tightrope. And also, I guarantee that every single chef, the one thing is every single chef on this, in this whole kind of event, will be doing what they're doing not because of the money.
The event has been monopolized in the recent years by Danish restaurant Noma, which has won the top spot for the past 3 years. And before the awards were announced, while praising the awards for what they have done for his business, the chef and co-owner of Noma, René Redzepi, remained humble about his chances this year.
In the years we've been number one, it's been magic for us. It's done wonders for us. So I'm up for anything. I'm up for anything. That's how I feel about it. And the people who are in the pipeline to win it, they all deserve it tremendously. So I hope whoever is going to win is going to feel proud, happy, and I'm going to support them all the way.
And as it turned out, Noma was relegated to the runner-up position this year, with the Roca brothers taking the top spot. Third position went to Osteria Francescana in Italy, while the world's best female chef award was handed over to Nadia Santini.
From Dal Pescatori in Italy, it's Nadia Santini.
It is an important award because I think in Italy and all over the world, the females are nearby the kitchen. And when we bring up children, we have the opportunity to teach them this passion. It is authenticity, it is generosity, it is life. For me, the most beautiful thing is to sit at the table and eat really good food together.
The winning list is put together by voters from the Diners Club World's 50 Best Restaurants Academy, which is a group of over 900 prominent figures in the international restaurant industry. Each member puts forward their 7 favorite eating spots, and the winners are compiled by popularity. And as they say, winner takes it all. So now you know where exactly you have to be to savor world's best food. Bureau Report, Zee Media. Spain it is. because I want to go there right now. Okay, for now we have to close the show. That's all for this week's Beyond the News. Keep watching Zee Business.
Assad